Hi friends, it's Gwen. Today I want to do a review for you, and I have chosen to do a review of I'll Meet You There by Heather Demetrios. This is the book that I received as part of my February uppercase box subscription, and I did an unboxing video, so I'll link that down below. But this was a great book. If you don't know anything about it, it follows the story of Skylar as she is attempting to get out of her hometown, which is a small hometown, like one of those hole-in-the-wall type towns, and she's going off to college. So all she has to do is, she's graduated high school, she's got to get through the summer, and then she's on her way to college and bigger and better things, or so she thinks. Of course, along the way, things happen, and I just want to get into it with you and talk about this book because it was very surprising. I didn't hear anything about it. It was just published this year by Henry Holt and Company, and yeah, so let's get started. To start off with the characters, there were a couple of main characters. Of course, Skylar is the main character and you're following her story, but there's also her two best friends, Dylan and Chris. Dylan is a female and Chris is a male, but they're all friends. Dylan has a boyfriend, and she has a baby, and so I think it's a son. She has a son, so she's staying in Creekview, but Skylar and Chris have made a pact that they were going to get out of Creekview. Like, no matter what, don't get distracted, you know, put your blinders on, we're getting out of here, we're going to college. And that's exactly what they did. They both got accepted into the college of their choice, and they're on their way. They just have to get through the summer. The relationship between the characters and their friendship is really real and authentic, and I love the dynamics of the friendship, and the characters are really well written. Then what happens? So they go to this graduation party, and at this graduation party, Green, that went over to Afghanistan, he had his leg blown off, and he is home on temporary leave for physical therapy and so forth. So this boy named Josh, he is from the small town of Creekview, and he is there, and Skylar meets him, and they start talking, and long story short, she starts falling in love with him. But Josh is dealing with a lot of emotions and feelings and thoughts about things that have happened to him over in Afghanistan. And I used to be in the military myself, so I found myself relating to the situation, even though I never personally had to deal with anything like that. I understood where that character was coming from and the things that they were dealing with. So the characters were absolutely amazing and very real and raw. The next thing that I want to touch on is the setting. It's a small town, and if you're from a small town, or you know, you watch these movies about small towns that really depict it as there's nothing really to do, everybody knows everybody, and everybody wants out. But then there's always those couple of people that stay behind, and they stay in that small town. I guess that's kind of how, like, when I lived, when I was in high school, that's kind of how it was. Like, everybody was like, we have to get out of here. And I mean, there were things to do, but like not really. But yeah, it's so much like that. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's like in the same friends crowd, and there's different cliques, of course, but it's just that town that everybody wants to get out of, and just the realness, the authentic description of the town, and the feelings that people had towards it, and the characters had towards the town, and just the things that they do. It's very small town America. So the plot, of course, like I have touched on, Skylar wants to get out, but all she has to do is get through the summer, and she finds herself falling in love with Josh, and then she begins to question everything. So the book is actually broken up into 3 separate parts. It has different months, so it goes through what happened in June, what happened in July, and what happened in August. And so you kind of follow Skylar's journey through those different months and what was happening, where she begins to question, should she really go off to college? And, you know, her family dynamic, her father is deceased, and her mother is trying to overcome the tragedy of that, as well as Skylar. So her mom and her kind of butt heads a little bit, And yeah, so that's also part of the story, but not a huge, like that's not the main part of the story. So the conflicts that are in this book are, should I stay or should I go? That's a very obvious one. She's deciding, should I stay in Creekview and, you know, make a life here, or should I go and seek out, you know, everything that Chris and I have been talking about this whole time about getting out of this small town. I think we all deal with that, especially when you're graduating high school or college. I went into the military right out of high school, and that was a very scary type thing. Not so much the military aspect, but just, should I stay here and get a job? Should I go to college? Should I join the military? Like, it is kind of a big decision, and then especially after you've, let's say, made the decision to go to college, and then you decide, okay, I'm graduating college, now what? You know, do I go to graduate school? Do I get a job? Do I move? Do I take this internship? I mean, there's so many questions. Just, should I stay or should I go? So that is one of the big conflicts presented in this book. The other one, of course, deals with the loss of her father and the dealings that with her mother. Her mother is a little bit depressed. She loses her job, and Skylar has to deal with that conflict of possibly her mother moving on to another relationship type thing. Of course, falling in love. I mean, that's a big conflict, especially right out of high school. You find some guy and you're falling in love with him, and then you're like, hell, he's here, you know, and I'm supposed to be leaving. So falling in love with someone kind of like at a not so good time, I'll say. So that's another conflict that it deals with. And the last one is one of the biggest ones and one of the best conflicts that I believe that this book deals with, and Heather Demetrios did an excellent job of her research with this part, is dealing with the effects of war. Josh's thoughts and feelings and emotions and kind of his PTSD, really, and it's just so real, so authentic. This is like the most authentic book, I guess I would say, because it really depicts everything how it really is in real life. So it's almost like this could be of, you know, nonfiction. I mean, it's just, in the back of the book, she talks about, or it has the author's note, and she talks about by the end of April 2014, there were over 2,000 U.S. military deaths in Afghanistan, and nearly 20,000 service members were wounded in action. And she gets these statistics from the U.S. Department of Justice. She also gets other statistics from NPR.org and the Washington Post. She also, in the acknowledgement section in the back of the book, she thanks all of the military people that helped her. She interviewed a lot of military people, I think specifically the Marine Corps. Her grandfather was in the Marines, so she came from a military family. Both of her parents were Marines, and her grandfather was a Marine, and so she kind of came from that world, so I'm sure she dealt with seeing a lot of this stuff herself, but she interviewed a lot of people, and she names who she talked to. As your generosity and openness about your service and such a difficult topic as PTSD is what allowed this book to be what it is. Ryan D. Cooper of the U.S. Marine Corps, I feel like you and Josh would be buddies. I really liked that. So she goes on to talk about her family and her uncle being in the Marines and the Army and the deployments to Iraq, and just kind of, she really did a lot. She had personal stories that she could draw from, but she also reached out to soldiers and kind of got their thoughts and feelings and just put it into the book. You can really tell her heart and soul is in this book. I highly recommend it. So the resolution of the story is also very real. It's not happily ever after per se, but it does have a great conclusion. It deals with the pact that Chris and Skylar made and how she's moving forward. Is she going to college or is she staying local? It talks about that. It wraps up the relationship with her and Josh. You know, does she fall in love with Josh? Does he love her? Are they a couple? That is wrapped up in this book. And there's also another character in this book that I really loved. Her name is Marge, and she kind of becomes a pseudo mom for Skylar throughout her journey, and she was a really awesome character, but they kind of wrap up her story as well, and it's just an excellent book. Easily a 5 stars. At the beginning, I wasn't really sure what to expect because I hadn't heard anything about this book, but I highly recommend you pick it up, especially if you've been in the military yourself, your family's been in the military, you're dating someone or married someone that's been in the military and has dealt with deployment, or you're just interested in that. Also, just as a YA fiction, or it can be a light read, but it does deal with some heavy issues. So again, highly recommended. Couldn't be happier with this book. Thank you so much, Uppercase Box, because I probably wouldn't have picked it up otherwise. But 5 stars. I hope you've enjoyed this review. They did send a mini collage kit as part of my Uppercase Box subscription, and now I'm going to work on my collage. So I finished my collage. It's just propped up back here on the top of my bookshelf right now. But I did want to leave you with a couple of final thoughts. So why did they include a mini collage kit and the Uppercase Box subscription? And in the personal letter, if you will watch the unboxing video, it does say that it directly relates to the story. And it does. Skylar is an artist and she does collages, and her collages aren't just overlapping pictures and stuff like that like I did mine. Those are the type of collages that I enjoy to do, but hers are more using papers to create a picture, and I don't want to tell you what her collage is about, but you have to read the book to find out. The last thing that I want to leave you with is in the very beginning, the title, I'll Meet You There. a little quote right here in the beginning, and it says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense." So I really liked that. I wanted to share it with you. Again, I highly recommend this book. The collage kit was a lot of fun. And of course, you don't have to have the Uppercase box subscription to do your own collage. If you read the book, you'll get some ideas. I hope you had a great time watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!